All right guys, we got a real small little land clearing project today. I'll show you here in a minute, but I'm going to try to take this opportunity to this is the question I get the most in the comments and all the messages and emails and everything I get. The question I get the most is, how do I go about bidding and pricing jobs? So I'm going to try to answer that to the best of my ability. All right, so let me show you what we're going to tie into real quick. I don't know how, this is hard to see because it's so growed up. But there's a cornfield right there. And this is an old dry dam, or what we call dry dams, retention ponds. There's the riser right there. But it's all growed up. Somebody's neglected it over the years. A new owner just bought this property and is wanting to get all these trees and brush and everything cleaned off. So he can come in here and keep it brush hog and maintain, and they're having some problems with leaves and stuff. The pipe's getting clogged up, so they just want to be able to maintain it. So that is basically the project at hand, is to get this cleaned up and stripped down. From the looks, the size of these trees, it's been a few years since anybody's gave this thing any attention. So let's have a little chat and see if we can make it look pretty in the process. All right guys, so as I was saying earlier, the question I get asked the most, whether it be emails, comments, Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, you name it, is how I go about bidding jobs and how I come up with the prices I do. And that is man, that is a loaded question. I don't know how else to say it. It's a loaded question. There's so many variables. So many variables go into that. So I guess to start off, I basically bid jobs three different ways. It's either T&M, time material, which there's some huge advantages to that we'll cover in a minute. Just straight out bid a job, here's your price, it's what it's going to cost, and there's some advantages to that. And then the other one is a combination of both. So we'll start off with the time material jobs. It's pretty much that. It's pretty simple. It's an hourly rate on the machine, whatever materials are, whatever labor is, that's what you got. Now on my machines, for every machine I own, I got an hourly rate I charge. I'll give you an example of a few. The John Deere 120 track off, I'm digging dirt, is $125 an hour with an operator, 3-hour minimum within a 50-hour radius. If I got an attachment on here that takes hydraulic, like the brush hog or a compactor or something like that, I'll bump it up about $10 an hour, but that also kind of depends on where I'm working at, who I'm working for, and what I'm doing, but that's kind of my general rule of thumb. Skid steer is $95 an hour, Mini X is $85 an hour, big dozer's $125 an hour, small dozer's $85 an hour, dump trucks run for $80 an hour, semi runs for $85 an hour. So, and like I said, all the equipment has a 3-hour minimum on it. So if I show up to do a 15-minute job with a John Deere 120 and you're within 50 miles of my shop, you're getting charged for 3 hours. If you're outside the 50 miles, then you're going to get charged for 3 hours, and how many hours on the truck it takes me to, that's a ugly little thing, how many hours on the truck it takes me to get back and forth within that 50-mile window, if that makes sense. Now materials, and this goes for time material or even a bid job, you really got to be in tune with all of your state sales tax laws. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh come on tree, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm an expert on all this, because I got people, I got a secretary and I got an accountant that does a lot of this for me. But basically what it comes down to is if you're going to buy something for X amount of dollars, let's just say $100, and you're going to resell it to a customer for $110, you're gonna mark it up 10%. I think that's good math. 9 times out of 10, the state, once they're part of that 10%, they want you to tax that 10%. And it really depends on the job and what you got going off. Sometimes it's just not worth the markup to deal with all the paperwork and headaches to go along with it. Here in Indiana, we got a 7% sales tax, and I believe they call that the usage tax, which is the difference. If you're a full-on retailer, you buy stuff wholesale with no sales tax at all, and you pay tax on the final sale. If you pay sales tax at point of purchase and you mark it up, and you have to file, I think, man, don't hold me to that, I think it's called a usage tax. So basically you're paying a tax on that difference you sold it for, your markup amount. Now, there are a couple ways around it. I'm not a big fan of any of them. On smaller jobs, I find it just not to be worth marking the material up, just because I don't want to deal with the taxes and the paperwork and the time it takes the office people to do all that. It's just not profitable. Now on a bigger job it can be. But what you can do sometimes on the smaller jobs is sometimes you just have to implement a fee, a handling fee or a bid fee or an estimate fee. Guys, I hate fees. I don't like doing that. I rarely do that. On septics and stuff where there's a lot of paperwork and, you know, half of it's material, I may do that occasionally. Gosh dang it. But I don't like paying fees, and I don't like charging fees. You know, it's kind of what it comes down to. So that ends up being a little bit of a job by job call, I guess. I mean, at the end of the day, you're in business to make money, and you have to justify and make as much of your time as profitable as possible. And if you're spending hours and hours at a desk making phone calls, finding the best price on material, and putting bids together and cutting up a materials list and all that stuff, sometimes you either got to mark it up or charge a fee to justify it. It's just the way it is. Whenever we were building a lot of custom houses, that come into play a lot more, because it takes 2 weeks to bid a house out. Most of the jobs I do nowadays I can bid out in an hour or two, so I don't have near as much time wrapped up in as I did before. So, and like I said, that kind of applies to, if you got a bigger job, it's kind of easier to wrap some of that cost into some other things. And on small jobs, sometimes you just got to charge a fee. It's just what it is. So so that's kind of time material. That's how it works. Now, a combination of them both. The best example I got on that is, I'm going to say digging a basement. Or digging a basement, or let's just say I did a job here a while back where I put in 1,400 feet of water line. I think you guys seen that one. Whoop, that tree's a little harder than I thought it was. So whenever I get a job to dig a basement, I give them a bid price. And why I give them a bid price? Because you got the potential to make more money, to be honest with you. If you know what you're doing, you're confident in your abilities, you dug enough basements, you know how long it's going to take, you got a pretty good idea, and you can hedge your bet just a little bit, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I'll give them a bid price, and then I will put an asterisk somewhere on there, and usually it reads to the tune of X amount of dollars, dig basement. You always want to specify where the dirt's going, whether it's on site or being trucked away, because if you're bidding a job to leave the dirt on site and then they want it trucked out of there, you will lose your honey shiny in a heartbeat. So you always got to specify where the dirt's going to go. And then the asterisk line will say something about if rock or any unknown underground obstructions are hit, at that point they will be dealt with on a time material basis. And there's been times, I think you guys seen one basement on here, but we hit rock unexpectedly. And basically what I did at that point is that basement went from a bid job to a time material job. And then that covered my butt, because otherwise if I would have did it off the bid price, I would have lost about 500 bucks. So that's kind of how you protect yourself in that situation a little bit. And most contractors understand that. They're not going to spend $7,000 or $8,000 to go out there and have borings done to see what's down there. So you can, I mean, if I knew rock was down there, I would have bid accordingly. But and it's still not worth my time to go out there and dig a test hole. Because usually whenever you're bidding on this thing, it's in such a preliminary stage, just nobody knows if we're going to build or not. So that works really well for me over the years. Now, then you got jobs that are just straight up, excuse me, you got jobs that are just straight up bid jobs. And I guess two examples of those I could probably use for you guys. The two things I bid the most is basements and septic systems. And I kind of go about them both the same way. I always figure my material list first. And I figure my material list very simply. I just go through the job in my head. So on a basement, first thing I'm going to do after the excavating's done is put footers in. The first step putting footers in is former drain, so I'll figure all my former drain and all my accessories. And then once I get former drain in, I'm going to put rebar in, so I'll figure all that. Once I get rebar in, I'm going to put rock in, so I'll figure out my rock. Once I get my rock in, I'm going to put concrete in, so I'll figure out my concrete. And yada yada yada. And then I know how many guys and how many hours it's going to take, so I'll figure my labor. Put that all together, and voila, you got a price. Now, whenever I'm straight up bidding a job, I usually go, oh, don't you do it, tree, don't you get back in, nope, let go, thank you. Once on my labor and on my materials, I always basically figure 10% over. You can call it miscellaneous, you can call it whatever you want to do it, but you got to give yourself, I figure it tight, and then I give myself a 10% window. So let's just say, for simple math purposes, is if the job comes up to $5,000, I will basically bid $5,500 to give myself wiggle room for some unforeseen issue that creeps up, or something that I may have possibly overlooked in the bid process. And if everything goes as planned, you win the lottery that day and you win 500 extra bucks. But what'll happen is half of them you'll win $500 and half of them you lose $500. So hopefully at the end of the day you come out even. It's just kind of the way it works out. Oh, come on. So, like, on a basement would be a better example of this. If you bid enough of these, you kind of got an idea. So if you do 2 or 3 jobs and all your numbers come out where you thought they were going to come out, and you made the profit you thought you were going to make, you start coming up with linear foot or square foot numbers. And I do this a lot in basements. I bid enough of these things that I can basically just take the linear foot of a footer, take it times the number I've come up with, and I can bid a footer of a basement, and however long it takes me to add up the length of the wall. So if I got 120 feet of wall, I take it times X number I've come up with, and boom, there it is. Now you gotta stay on top of that number, because price of concrete changes, price of labor may change, price of former drain may change. You gotta take into considerations the plan of the house. Is it a complicated one? Is it a simple one? I almost always will start off with that number. I'll take the foot of that, spit it out, and then I'll go back and double check myself and figure concrete, figure everything up, add it up, and just make sure that the two numbers are very similar. It's probably overkill, but I just like to know where I'm at. I do the same thing with ICF walls. They are bid on a square foot price, so it don't take long to figure up the square foot. If the house has any doors or windows in it, I figure right through them, because yep, there's no concrete or block there, but I got labor in them. Framing them out and building them out, so the price pretty much ends up being a washout. But go with it from there. I'm not saying my system's perfect. Ooh, you little sycamore tree, you're gonna put up a fight, aren't you? Yeah, imagine that. You're gonna lose, tree, you're gonna lose. And I'm not saying my system works for everybody. Whoops, sorry about that. Wearing a tree, get off there. This is the small one. I'm not saying my system's gonna work for everybody. You know, whenever we were doing a lot of custom house building, we were doing, our bid process was way more in depth. I mean, we'd give a customer a 7 or 8 page contract for, 7 or 8 page contract for building a house. You know, nowadays, whenever I'm doing a lot of work for these farmers and stuff, if it's a guy I've worked with a bunch and got a good working relationship with, like Chris or Dennis Metcalf or somebody, I'll just walk out there. I can look at a job pretty quick. I've done it enough. I'll walk out there, look at a job. Well, it's like this job we're doing right now. What do you think? I think I can have it done in 6 hours. He knows what my hourly rate is, and he gives me the yay or nay, and we go for it. So now septics and basements and ponds and lakes and bigger jobs like that, you know, I'll sit down with the calculator and go through them and figure them out a little bit. But there's pros and there's pros and cons to all methods involved. You know, with time material, you're probably never going to lose money if you got your hourly rates right, but you never have a chance to make any more than what your hourly rate is. You know, if you get a bid job and everything goes really good and you got a crew that knocked it out of the park and it goes a lot smoother than what you thought, you know, you got a chance to double your hourly rate or make some pretty good money in a short period of time. Now the flip side of that is, if you don't do a very good job of bidding, you also got a opportunity to lose some money. So it can go either way, folks. It really can go either way. But you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some. I mean, I've had some jobs that are some real losers, and I've had some jobs that are some real winners, and you just gotta hope they equal themselves out. You know, what I tell everybody is, I'm not trying to retire on one job. I'm just trying to make a living so I can get to the next one. And I guess the old gold rule is true. You know, treat people how you want to be treated. I always try to put myself in the customer's shoes, and if I was in their situation, how would I want to be talked to? How would I want to be treated? And you know, there's a lot of times I am in the customer's shoes, and I'm like, man, if I was you, I'd be doing that different. You're gonna regret that one day, because old karma, she's a real, you know what. And not always, most of the time it does come back around to bite them, but that's not my business. It's what works for me. Like I said, what works for me may not work for you. You got to keep that in mind. You got to keep that in mind. And one last thing I'll add on this, as far as your hourly rates and your square footage rates and all that stuff, you got to know your area. You know, some guys say, oh my God, you're so cheap on your track. Oh, well, you know what? I'm one of the more expensive guys around here, to be honest with you. But I'm known for my, I've been doing it for a while, and I got a reputation, and they know what my work's going to be. There's guys out there that'll do it cheaper, but they may or may not show up, and they may or may not do a good job. They might, I don't know. But you got to know your market. You got to know what you can charge, what you can get away with. You don't, you know, starting out, you gotta find your way, and you're probably not gonna be able to start off with the highest rate in town, which is why you don't need the nicest equipment in town. You know, get some stuff you can afford, and keep your hourly rate down to where you can get jobs. And then once you get going, that'll all start taking care of itself. So you kind of got to know your market you're into, and that goes for time, material, and hourly rates, labor rates, and it also goes for bid jobs. You know, if you're bidding against the goddamn basements and he's bidding 50 cents less a square foot than you and getting every basement in town, obviously he's making money at it. So you need to go back and figure out what you're doing wrong so you can get down to that price to compete with him. And if you're convinced he's not making money at him, well, you just let him bid himself out of business and you stay where you're at, and he'll get a few of them and then he'll disappear. So, well guys, I think hopefully that answers a few questions. I don't know, maybe it raised more questions. If it did, type them down below in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. If you'd like for me to elaborate on anything else at some point, let me know. But I got about half this bank cleared here. Let me finish off getting this thing cleared out here, and I'll show you what we got, and we'll call her a wrap. All right guys, there she is, another clearing job complete. Look at there, it is a dam in there, can you believe it? Just in the nick of time. I don't know if you guys can see, but she is starting to rain pretty good. So hope you guys enjoyed our little chat. Maybe you learned something, maybe you didn't. Maybe I convinced you more than ever I'm an idiot. That's always a possibility. But anyways, either way, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I'm gonna shut this track down and get out of the rain. Catch you guys on the next one.